This is a really important message because you see, the thing is I like to preach very positive things, but sometimes I do need to tell you what the enemy wants to do to you because we have someone that's trying to get rid of our faith. So this one, the title is Don't Make Yourself a Target. Okay? And we're going to see in the book of Nehemiah how they tried to draw him out. And I'm also going to show you the same thing with Jesus, because they tried the same thing with Jesus to try to draw him out so that they could fire at him in more easily. So let's go to start with Luke chapter 20 and verses 19 to 25.
Luke chapter 20.
Likewise, he said to him, you also be over 5 cities.
No, you're not in the right place, darling.
Oh.
Luke chapter 20.
Oh, 20, I'm in 19.
Okay, and verses 19 to 25. 25.
And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, that they might seize on his words, in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. Then they asked him, saying, Teacher, we know that you say and teach rightly, and you do not show personal favoritism, but teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, Why do you test me? Show me a denarius, whose image and inscription does it have? They answered and said, Caesar's. And he said to them, Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.
Okay, now the one thing that we can always see, the reason why Jesus said that you will be hated by all is because what the love of God does is he threatens man's power base in their eyes. Now, the thing that's really deceptive about this is because if you are belonging to the Holy Spirit of God, then you are more powerful than you'd ever be with your own devices. But people who don't know Jesus Christ, they will think that you're threatening their power base. Okay, now that's always at the heart of the attacks, usually. Now, the scribes and the chief priests saw that, so they feared the people and not God. They said they would have taken Jesus right then and there, but the Bible says that they feared the people. Okay. Now another thing, they sent spies who pretended to be disciples to infiltrate the followers. Now, do you think that the same thing is not happening today in our churches? Do you think that there's no spies in our churches? Of course there is. And even in good churches, there are, and especially in good churches, there will be people that are sent in to sow discord, or people that are sent in order to disrupt. Okay?
And they're not likely to be people who are disagreeable. They're going to be the person that you are most likely to want to share a confidence with.
And they'll try to get you to share confidences.
So you've got, you know, I don't want to put any trips on you and say be suspicious of everybody, but you do have to be wise with who you share things with.
Absolutely. Now, another thing is their target. What is their target? They were looking to get Jesus arrested to take him out of the picture, okay? And the same thing it's happened to me a few times where people have attacked me in order to try to get me to stop preaching the gospel, to get me to stop ministering. It's happened over the years many times, and I have no reason to believe that it won't happen again. But I have another reason to believe that it won't work. Because as long as I have a voice, I will preach the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, the next thing, the false disciples, once they did get in there, what did they use? Flattery. Watch out when people use flattery. That is a tool of the devil. If they were sincerely concerned about you, or they wanted a proper relationship with you, they wouldn't use flattery. They would, oh, I know how nice you are. Oh, we know that you're a teacher sent from God, or we know this, or we know that. No. Come straight with me. Immediately when I hear flattery, I go, play your game. Come on, out with it. I don't want to hear this no more. So Now, the problem that was put to Jesus is the same type of problem that was put to him in many instances. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Okay? So no matter how he answers, he would have been condemned by the question that they hit him with. So if Jesus says to pay the taxes, he'll be accused of being a traitor to his people, the Jews. If he says don't pay the taxes, then the Romans come and say you're inciting rebellion and they take him away. So any way that he answers the question in their mentality, he's going to get into deep trouble. Now, this is one of many circumstances where Jesus Christ shows himself to be the sovereign God, because he comes up with answers that we never would have come up with. Now, he tells the disciples to show him a denarius. Why? He asks them whose image is on it. Why? Because way back in Genesis 1:26, I believe it is, he says man was made in the image of God, in the image of God. So what is a denarius? A denarius is the image of Caesar on it. That's why Jesus says whose image is on it. So where's your image? Huh? He asks whose image on it. Now this is crucial. We were made in the image of God. Jesus then tells them to give each his due, demonstrating the identity a believer should have and the one a believer shouldn't have. We shouldn't have the image of the Emperor Augustine in our minds. We should have the image of God in our minds. Yes.
That is the reason why in the story of the prodigal, he gave him a signet ring.
Ah! Bring it out. Go. You get that, girls. Yeah. This is why in the prodigal son, the father gives him the signet ring. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Ben-Hur, that old Cecil B. DeMille classic, blockbuster classic. In the second half after the intermission, Masala is confronted by Judah Ben-Hur, and Judah comes with the seal of the admiral, and he says, "You recognize this?" He takes the clay tablet, boom, hits it, and he says, "Whose image is that?" You see, because then he was the adopted son of Arius, Quantasar Arius. So image is a very, very important thing in our faith. Now, what exactly were these evil people trying to do to Jesus? They were trying to bring him out in the open to make him a big target to fire at. You will find that this happens with the enemy many times. This is why when anybody tries to draw you out or bring you out, you need to be wise. You need to be discerning. You need to stay under the covering so that you discern and recognize it. Because some people are pretty clever talkers. We know that. We've all been fooled. I've been fooled before by clever talkers. And I'll tell you what, I'm about as suspicious as they come. And you know who's double suspicious? Judy's double suspicious, even more than me. But she's been fooled too.
I've been fooled.
Okay, so we need to be careful when someone is flattering or someone might be an infiltrator. We need to be careful not to give away. Keep the cards kind of close to the chest. The Lord will tell you, he will give you discernment as to when to share what and what quantity. Everybody can be trusted with something. Your wisdom is to know what they can be trusted with and how much of it.
Just to give you an example of what that actually looks like. Years and years ago, I was in a Bible group in Bandura.
Good.
And
Zimbabwe.
Larry had just been offered a teaching job at the new school that it was being opened up in the town. And I was all excited about this because I thought, oh wow, this is absolutely amazing. And you go into your Bible study, which is happening just after you've heard this news, and you want to tell everybody, guess what? And God said to me, don't speak. And it was, and I thought, whoa, I can't share this. And it was only about when it became public in a way that it couldn't possibly have been changed in any possible way. Then I saw why.
I'd signed the contract.
The contract had been signed, the teachers were all in place, nobody was ever going to change anything. The pastor's wife was the person who was the spy.
Yeah.
And if I had said something earlier on when the job had been offered, she would have been in a position to undo it.
She would have sabotaged it. She would have tried to sabotage it.
God had told me very clearly, do not speak. And I didn't understand why. But in that instance, fortunately, I was sensible enough not to speak. And then when the time came, I understood why.
Yeah.
Because of what then followed.
Oh yeah, and what followed was that particular pastor became chairman of the board, and he was going through he was doing all kinds of under the table skullduggery deals, and I confronted him on it many times in many ways in public.
But the point is that we didn't know any of that stuff right at the beginning. But God told us very specifically, don't speak.
Yeah.
It was like when we left Zimbabwe to come overseas, He said to us, don't speak.
Yeah, as well.
You know, so
don't tell anybody.
There is wisdom in hearing that little voice in the back of your head, when you can speak and when you can't speak, and who you can speak to and who you really mustn't.
Yeah.
So you need to listen to that.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Nehemiah chapter 6. Let's get into rebuilding the wall again. It gets even more exciting. What a book. Let's go Nehemiah 6, verses 1 and 2. And we'll go through the whole chapter. Okay.
Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall and that there were no breaks left in it, though at that time I had not hung the doors in the gates. The Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, "Come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono." But they thought to do me harm.
Okay, now you'll notice that not only is there Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies. So we're getting more. Can you see that? We started with just Sanballat and Tobiah, and then we added Geshem, and then we added the priests, and now we're adding other enemies, aren't we? So we can see that it's an cumulative effect that's happening here. Now, again, what is he trying to do? He's trying to draw him out into the open. Come meet with me, okay? Now, another thing, I get the impression from reading this that the enemies were not aware that the doors were not yet hung. I may be wrong in supposing that, but the way I read it, it doesn't sound like they knew, because they heard that I'd rebuilt the wall, no breach remained in it, although I hadn't hung the doors yet. Do you see?
Yeah.
So to me, it says that they didn't know that. Okay.
Which means that they had not actually gone and seen for themselves. Because if they had been and seen for themselves, it would have been obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Because those gates are pretty big.
Okay, now let's go for verse 3.
So I sent messages to them saying, "I'm doing a great work so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you?"
Okay, so basically his answer is very simple. No, I won't meet with you. No. Okay, so let's go for verses 4 to 7.
But they sent me this message 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. Then I like that. That's funny. So they tried 4 more times.
Pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
But that is really interesting, actually. Things don't change, do they?
No.
Then Sanballat sent his servant to me as before, the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand. In it was written, "It is reported among the nations," and Geshem says, "that you," that's also interesting, "that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumours, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king. And you have also appointed prophets to proclaim concerning you at Jerusalem, saying, there is a king in Judah. Now these matters will be reported to the king. So come therefore and let us consult together."
Okay, so you can see what the threats are. Now listen to this. I get the impression again that 4 times they sent a message, but it was private. Now the pressure is constant.
And also, probably the first ones were done in a manner which was flattery.
Probably. We don't know,
in
but
the 5th one, it now becomes mildly threatening.
but notice it is an open letter. So anybody can read it. It's a public letter. It's not a private message. So he sends it. Now, they used intimidation in those 4 different messages. You see, every time you send it, that kind of says that you are resolved to carry it to the end. Otherwise, you'd send the message once, send it twice, and you'd give up and you go, okay, it's not getting anywhere. But they just kept on sending it. So there's intimidation here. Now, on the 5th time, they showed their true colors. They accused the Jews of rebellion and installing a king of their choosing. Okay?
Well, and it says that it was rumours, so they've just all been gossiping, going, because they don't know what he's actually doing. They're like, oh, I bet he's doing this. Or so they've all got together and come up with that, saying,
Yeah. Okay.
We think this is what's happening, but they don't know. It's all lies.
Good question, because see, the thing is my version says it was reported. So, but that could have been, it is reported, it is rumored. Reported might be a little stronger, but I don't know.
It says here it's reported, but
does it? Okay.
According to these rumours.
You take that as okay.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. That means that you are presupposing that they actually heard rumors.
Well, yeah, someone could have said, "Oh,
yeah, but hang on a minute.
So told me that blah blah did this," and then they go and tell someone else, and it's
okay. Well, how about this for a scenario? There weren't any rumors. And they wrote it in a letter that there were rumors.
Yes.
Could have been as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? Listen, I've heard sometimes where somebody will say, well, it's been said about you, and I know very well and good nothing was said about me whatsoever. Yeah. It's the person in front of me who's just trying to do this with me. They're trying to play a trip on me. And they say, well, this is what is said in the village about you. And I say,
they say, other people think, people say this, it's all lies.
Yeah.
But
that is a tactic of dishonest people.
Who said it? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't tell you off the hand.
I had a really good response to this. Oh, it was so good. I can't remember who. Oh, it was someone. Yeah, I know who it was. Anyway, she said, if she gets anyone saying those sorts of things, she says, well, I'm going to have to ring them up and speak to them myself and check this out. And they backpedal.
Oh yeah. They blush. Go, oh, but it was yeah.
Oh, I don't think. No.
Yeah. So good. I'm glad we brought this up, because that is also another tactic. That he said, she said. But sometimes they're just lying because they want to get they want to put pressure on you to get their own way. So they'll say, well, this one said this about you, and that one said that one about you.
But they won't tell you who said.
No, well, I can't tell you who. That would be you won't tell.
That's breaking a confidence. Some confidence.
But you already did.
Yep.
In a way.
Now, then they say, come now, let us take counsel together. Now, the way he words that is well, let's just talk about it amongst friends.
Yes.
No.
Because I wouldn't like anything awful to happen to you.
No, goodness, I'm only concerned about you. Yeah. Okay, verses 8 and 9.
Then I sent him saying, no such things as you say are being done, but you invent them in your own heart. For they were all trying to make us afraid, saying their hands will be weakened in the work, and it will not be done. Therefore, O God, strengthen my hands.
So Nehemiah denies the allegations, and then he exposes the reason for the accusations. They're just trying to get us to stop the work. Okay? And they were trying to discourage the workers. So then what does he do? Default position, Lord, just as Hezekiah took the letter from Sennacherib and spread it on the ground before God, and he said, look, here's what's being said. What do you think? Nehemiah is basically doing the same idea. Lord, you're hearing what's going on here. Okay? So notice that he keeps trying to draw him out in the open. It's always the same type of idea. Now let's go 10 to 14.
Afterward, I came to the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer, and he said, Let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. Indeed, at night they will come to kill you. And I said, should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me, because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him.
Yeah.
For this reason he was hired, that I should be afraid and act that way and sin, so that they might have cause for an evil report, that they might reproach me. My God, remember Tobiah and Sanballat according to their works, and the prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who would have made me afraid.
Okay, now,
So,
no, that's good.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When it says the son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer, who's a secret informer for the other side,
Yes.
not a secret informer for Nehemiah.
No, a secret informer for the evil ones.
But he knew he was a spy.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, we have to understand a little bit of the culture. In those times, you found safety or sanctuary if you ran into the temple and grabbed the horns of the altar. You were supposed to be free from attack or death or whatever. Okay, that was supposed to be a place of sanctuary. Even in the CAD file series that was done some years ago, they had this same principle that came out many times, where the person would flee into the church and grab the altar, and he should be safe for 40 days until charges could be formally brought against him. It's a place of sanctuary where they weren't supposed to be able to get him. But what Nehemiah says is, this man, this priest who was supposedly telling me to go into the synagogue and grab the horns of the altar and close the door behind me so I could get sanctuary, what would that mean? That would mean I need sanctuary because I'm an evildoer. You see, so he perceived that this priest.
No, because it says.
Oops.
It actually says. One day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Deliah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut up in his house. Now this is a priest, okay? And the priest says, let us meet in the house of God.
That's why I brought that up.
Inside the temple, and let us close the doors.
Yes.
Because men are coming to kill you. He's actually created an environment of fear.
And guilt.
You see, now Nehemiah went into the house of Shemaiah, who was shut up in his house. Why was he shut up in his house? Was he afraid? You see, the thing is, where you have people who are making plots and counterplots, there is always fear.
Yeah.
And the people who are making the plots are often more fearful than the people that they are threatening, because they're not sure if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
You see, so there's an element of fear already in there.
Yes, and you realize that if he gives in to him and goes into the temple, that means he has something that he requires sanctuary for. So there's an aura of guilt already.
He believes what this guy is saying. and actually Nehemiah is turning around and saying, no, I don't believe that anybody wants to kill me.
Yeah, and again we have we have an evildoer in the place where he should not be. The priests should have been on Nehemiah's side. They should have been with him. They should have been encouraging him and helping him. But the nobles, the priesthood, all kinds of people were against him when they should not have been. They should have been on his side. You will find that when people's self-interests are in play, that is where people will turn on you. So we need to understand that. Now at the very end, notice he again goes back to the default position, goes to God, like the letter to Hezekiah from Sennacherib. He spreads it. He says, "Look, Lord, here he is. remember what Tobiah and Sanballat were doing. And then, interestingly enough, he adds the name of a prophetess who was not prior to this on the scene, a certain Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who are trying to frighten me. The prophets even. You can see that the only help and hope Nehemiah has and the workers on the wall is the covering of the Lord God. That's the only thing they have. Take that away, there is absolutely no protection whatsoever. And I would freely admit that that is the case for us now. We stay under the covering, we are safe. We go out from the covering, we are not. Because the gift of discernment especially needs to be in operation. We need to be able to see the priests that, like I said earlier, there was a pastor. I had to strongly come against him because he was allying himself with devil worshippers in order to get his way on a certain political stance. I've seen this before. I was appalled that someone would be so easily compromised in their walk in the Lord that they would do that. But it happens when people's self-interests are involved. You can expect
And
all
also
kinds of funny business.
You can expect that to happen when a person who is in a position, a priest or a pastor, is in that position because he wants a job. Versus the man who is a priest or a pastor because he worships
loves the Lord.
God.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between the one and the other. And you have to be able to, again, to have the wisdom to see the difference.
And if we don't stay under the covering, we won't, basically. So let's read 15 to 19.
So the war was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. And it happened when all our enemies heard of it and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God. Also, in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters to Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came to them. For many in Judah were pledged by him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of very hard names.
Now you're doing good. Keep going.
The daughter of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. Also, they reported his good deeds before me and reported my words to him. Tobiah sent letters to frighten me.
Okay, so the wall was completed in 52 days, and upon its completion, the enemies lost their confidence. Why? Because they saw that God was the author of this, that God was the one who it was his will that this wall be successfully constructed. Otherwise, it would not have happened. Now that gives you a kind of a snapshot into the intensity of the pressure that was put upon Nehemiah and the workers on the wall. The pressure was intense. It was constant. It was sustained. So it was only God that made this work. Now, another thing you can see is the skullduggery that happens because Tobiah and Sanballat, they had married into some of the Judean families, and you see, so they were technically family. So there were filial type relationships that complicate the matters further. Then we can also see that the nobles were praising the leadership of Tobiah, spying for him. That's why Tobiah sent intimidatory letters to frighten Nehemiah. So basically, if I was to sum this up, we have an enormous victory. We can do anything if we just stay with our God, because he will show us how to do it. He will protect us. And sometimes, you know, there was a phrase this morning that one of those myths, one of those Christianese myths that got exploded. He said, you know what? I've heard a lot of people say, well, God will never give you more than you can handle. Well, yes, He does. He's given me stuff I can't handle. But if I'm under the covering, He can handle it. Now, keep in mind, it is in the scriptures that He says He won't tempt you more than you can. Tempting is not the same thing.
He also says He provides you a way of escape.
Yeah, He will provide a way of escape. Now, the thing is this message can be a very frightening message if we don't understand that God is for us. God wants that wall to be built in our lives. He wants us to be defended. He wants us to be protected. He wants us to be able to accomplish that perfect purpose that He has for us. And His blessing is on it, and it's on us. So when you have things to accomplish in your life, make sure that you know that God is the one who gave you the will to want to do that in the first place. Okay? He's the one who gave me the will to teach. I never wanted to be a teacher. I thought it was laughable. But He gave me a mandate and He said, no, I want you to teach. I want you to be a teacher. I was a concert musician, and a good one, if I dare say. But He wanted me to be a teacher. So I did that. And you know what? It was a hard life, but it's a good life. He will give you everything you need in order to build your wall. So, will there be resistance? Yes, but that proves the validity of your endeavor. If there's an endeavor without any resistance against it, it's not worth anything. It's worth something because there is resistance against it. So, I hope that is a good message. Don't be drawn out in the open. Like I said, we're all smart people here on this screen, partaking of this message, all of us. And we've all been taken for a client somewhere along the line. So what we need to do now is not be taken for a client, because we're a little bit further down the road now. We have the Spirit of God in us who is going to tell us and reveal to us the things that we need to know. Okay? So, with God, this is going to be a victorious life. Is it going to be a hard one? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. Are you going to suffer? Yeah. Are you going to win? Yeah. Okay? Just like Nehemiah.
For the joy set before you.
Okay.